Let's see. What we got here? Chapter 16, Poseidon's Nature and Deeds. When Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, after deposing their father Cronus, shook lots in a helmet for the lordship of the sky, sea, and murky underworld, leaving the common to all, Zeus won the sky, Hades the underworld, and Poseidon the sea. Poseidon, who is equal to his brother Zeus in dignity, though not in power, and of surely quarrelsome nature, at once set about building his underwater palace off Aegea in Euboea. In its spacious stables, he keeps white chariot horses with brazen hooves and golden manes, and a golden chariot, at the approach of which storms instantly cease and sea monsters rise, frisking around it. B. Needing a wife who would be at home in the sea depths, he courted Thetis the Nereid. But when it was prophesied by Themis that any son born to Thetis would be greater than his father, he desisted and allowed her to marry a mortal named Peleus. Amphitrite, another Nereid, whom he next approached, viewed his advances with repugnance, and fled to the Atlas Mountains to escape him, but he sent messengers after her, among them one Delphinius, who pleaded Poseidon's cause so winningly that she yielded and asked him to arrange the marriage. Gracefully, Poseidon set Delphinius's image among the stars as a constellation, the dolphin. Amphitrite bore Poseidon 3 children, Triton, Rhode, and Benthesyme, but he caused her almost as much jealousy as Zeus did Hera by his love affairs with goddesses, nymphs, and mortals. Especially, she loathed his infatuation with Scylla, daughter of Phorcys, whom she changed into a barking monster with 6 heads and 12 feet by throwing magical herbs into her bathing pool. C. Poseidon is greedy of earthly kingdoms and once claimed possession of Attica by thrusting his trident into the Acropolis at Athens, where a well of seawater immediately gushed out, and is still to be seen. When the south wind blows, you may hear the sound of the surf far below. Later, during the reign of Cecrops, Athene came and took possession in a gentler manner by planting the first olive tree beside the well. Poseidon, in a fury, challenged her to single combat, and Athene would have accepted had not Zeus interposed and ordered them to submit the dispute to arbitration. Presently, then, they appeared before a divine court consisting of their supernal fellow deities who called on Cecrops to give evidence. Zeus himself expressed no opinion, but while all the other gods supported Poseidon, all the goddesses supported Athene. Thus, by a majority of 1, the court ruled that Athene had the better right to the land because she had given it the better gift. D. Greatly vexed, Poseidon sent huge waves to flood the Thracian plain, where Athene's city of Athena stood, whereupon she took up her abode in Athens instead and called that too after herself. However, to appease Poseidon's wrath, the women of Athens were deprived of their vote and the men forbidden to bear their mothers' names as hitherto. E. Poseidon also disputed Thracian with Athene, and on this occasion Zeus issued an order for the city to be shared equally between them, an arrangement disagreeable to both. Next, he tried unsuccessfully to claim Aegina from Zeus and Naxos from Dionysus, and in a claim for Corinth with Helios received the Isthmus only, while Helios was awarded the Acropolis. In fury, he tried to seize Argolis from Hera and was again ready to fight, refusing to appear before the Olympian peers, who, he said, were prejudiced against him. Zeus therefore referred the matter to the river gods Anacus, Cephisus, and Asterion, who judged in Hera's favor. Since he had been bidden to revenge himself with a flood as before, he did exactly the opposite. He dried up his judges' streams so that they now never flow in summer. However, for the sake of Amymon, one of the Danaans who were distressed by this drought, he caused the Argive river of Lerna to flow perpetually. F. He boasts of having created the horse, though some say that when he was newly born, Rhea gave one to Cronus to eat, and of having invented the bridle, though Athene had done so before him. But his claim to have instituted horse racing is not disputed. Certainly, horses are sacred to him, perhaps because of his amorous pursuit of Demeter, when she was tearfully seeking her daughter Persephone. It is said that Demeter, wearied and disheartened by her search, and disinclined for passionate dalliance with any god or titan, transformed herself into a mare and began to graze with the herd of one Uncus, a son of Apollo's, who reigned in Arcadian Oncium. She did not, however, deceive Poseidon, who transformed himself into a stallion and covered her, from which outrageous union sprang the nymph Despoina and the wild horse Arion. Demeter's anger was so hot that she is still worshipped locally as Demeter the Fury. Hold on. Footers. 1. Thetis, Amphitrite, and Nereus were different local titles of triple moon goddesses as ruler of the sea. And since Poseidon was the father god of the Aeolians who had taken to the sea, he claimed to be her husband wherever she found worshippers. Peleus married Thetis on Mount Pelion. Nereus means the wet one, and Amphitrite's name refers to the third element, the sea, which is cast about earth, the first element, and above which rises the second element, air. In the Homeric poems, Amphitrite means simply the sea. She is not personified as Poseidon's wife. Her reluctance to marry Poseidon matches Hera's reluctance to marry Zeus and Persephone's to marry Hades. The marriage involved the interference of male priests with female control of the fishing industry. The fable of Delphinius is sentimental allegory. Dolphins appear when the sea grows calm. Amphitrite's children were herself in triad, Triton, lucky new moon, road, full harvest moon, and Bentheissimi, dangerous old moon. But Triton has since become masculinized. Aegea stood on the sheltered Boeotian side of Euboea and served as a port for Orchomenus, and it was hereabouts that the naval expedition mustered against Troy. 2. The story of Amphitrite's vengeance on Scylla is paralleled in that of Pasiphae's vengeance on another Scylla. Scylla, she who rends or puppy, is merely a disagreeable aspect of herself. The dog-headed death goddess Hecate, who was at home both on land and in the waves. A seal impression from Cronus shows her threatening a man in a boat, as she threatened Odysseus in the Straits of Messina. The account quoted by Tzetzes seems to have been mistakenly deduced from an ancient vase painting in which Amphitrite stands beside a pool occupied by a dog-headed monster. On the other side of the vase is a drowned hero caught between two dog-headed triads of goddesses at the entrance to the underworld. 3. Poseidon's attempts to take possession of certain cities are political myths. His dispute over Athens suggests an unsuccessful attempt to make him the city's tutelary deity in place of Athene. Yet her victory was impaired by a concession to patriarchy. The Athenians abandoned the Cretan custom which prevailed in Caria until classical times, when they ceased to take their mother's name. Varro, who gives this detail, represents the trial as a plebiscite of all the men and women of Athens. It is plain that the Ionian Pelagesians of Athens were defeated by the Aeolians, and that Athene regained her sovereignty only by alliance with Zeus's Arcanes, who later made her disown Poseidon's paternity and admit herself reborn from Zeus's head. 4. The cultivated oil was originally imported from Libya, which supports the myth of Athene's Libyan origin. But what she brought will have been only a cutting. The cultivated olive does not breed. The cultivated olive was originally imported from Libya. The cultivated olive does not breed true, but must always be grafted on the Olester, a wild olive. Her tree was still shown at Athens during the 2nd century AD. The flooding of the Thracian plain is likely to be a historical event, but cannot be dated. It is possible that early in the 14th century BC, which meteorologists reckon to have been a period of maximum rainfall, the rivers of Arcadia never ran dry, and that their subsequent shrinking was attributed to the vengeance of Poseidon. Pre-Hellenic sun worship at Corinth is well established. 5. The myth of Demeter and Poseidon's records a Hellenic invasion of Arcadia. Demeter was pictured at Phargalia as the mare-headed patroness of the pre-Hellenic horse cult. Horses were sacred to the moon because their hooves make a moon-shaped mark, and the moon was regarded as the source of all water, hence the association of Pegasus with springs of water. The early Hellenes introduced a larger breed of horse into Greece from Transcaspia, the native variety having been about the size of a Shetland pony and unsuitable for chariotry. They seem to have seized the centers of the horse cult, where their warrior kings forcibly married the local priestesses and thus won a title to the land, incidentally suppressing the wild mare orgies. The sacred horses Arion and Despona, this being a title of Demeter herself, were then claimed as Poseidon's children. Amymoin may have been a name for the goddess at Lerna, the center of the Danid water cult. Demeter as Fury. This is 6. Demeter as Fury, like Nemesis as Fury, was the goddess in her annual mood of murder, and the story also told of Poseidon and Demeter at Thalpusia, and of Poseidon and an unnamed Fury at the fountain of Thalpusia in Boeotia. Was already old when Hellenes came out. It appeared in early Indian sacred literature, where Saranu turns herself into a mare. Vivaswat becomes a stallion and covers her, and the fruit of this union are the 2 heroic Asvins. Demeter's Erinnys may, in fact, have stood not for Demeter the Fury, but for Demeter Saranu, an attempted reconciliation of the 2 warring cultures, but to the resentful Pelagesian, Demeter was and remained outraged.